Hi, everybody. Quick disclaimer here. I just wanted to say that this first episode mentions a pilot episode that we recorded a lot. And if you're confused, we have not released the pilot yet and don't expect to in a bit for just a few reasons, mostly spoiler wise. So if you're confused, don't worry. It will really only be this episode. And thank you, and I hope you enjoy Steven Universe Revisit. Hi everyone. Welcome to Alex and Panda Watch Steven Universe and Complain. I'm Panda, currently fronting Fallon, and this is Alex.
Hello.
So today we have the first episode of Steven Universe the series, which is Gem Glow, Season 1, Episode 1. Should make sure to write that down. Uh, what should we start with? I mean, this is the first episode. People might look at this before the pilot, if I'm being perfectly honest.
Okay, then I think we'll go ahead and redo a little bit of our points from the first from the pilot,
That might be
just
a
in
good
terms of
point.
introducing the show.
Yeah, so clearly we are watching Steven Universe, which is a Cartoon Network family children's cartoon about a young boy learning about his powers and magic cool abilities with his family and friends, but mostly the crystal gems and their complicated background in the universe. And it's Steven's universe, and we're all living in it.
It's his universe. We're all living in it.
But this is the first episode, which serves as an introduction for a lot of people, I imagine, uh, on just the general premise of the series and show. Should we get into the synopsis first, or
Yeah,
is
let's synopsisize first.
Okay, well, this episode largely revolves around the cookie cat treat, which has been Steven's favorite treat. Steven is I'd say youngish. He might be teenager age, like just hitting the puberty line. He's still having a lot of voice cracks, but his favorite treat in the whole world, Cookie Cat, which has a bunch of interstellar implications and possible metaphors for the future of the show, gets discontinued. Distraught over this, he goes back to his family, the Crystal Gems, who currently deal with a centipedal infestation of the house. This, I think, is actually a really good introduction of both the characters of the Crystal Gems, which are Pearl, Amethyst, and Garnet, and each of their respective personalities and abilities and what they generally do. They fight monsters. They fight magical pests of the world. Pearl, who is very skinny and lithe, is very elegant with her attacks, while Amethyst uses a whip and is very loose and lackadaisy about it. Is lackadaisy the word? And Garnet is very
Lackadaisical, I think.
lackadaisical. Well, you know what I mean. And Garnet is very solid and kind of the bruiser of the group. And that's all well and good. They beat that. And what's since this is the pilot, we get introduced to one of Steven's anxieties is that he has difficulty summoning his own weapon, gem weapon, which all the others can do, but he currently can't because he's kind of the newbie to this group of crystal gems. And most of the episodes fall around this. We kind of take a sneak peek into how each gem sees themselves and how they portray summoning their own weapon. Pearl is, you mentioned that she seems to have a very analytical, possibly uh, can be interpreted as possibly autism on Pearl's
She
side.
does seem to be coded as autistic.
I think that's perfectly fair. Amethyst, she doesn't really seem to put in much effort with it. She just does it, and then she breaks a dumpster in half, which immediately angers the donut shop worker. And Garnet actually says a lot about like being in harmony with the universe, which it on purpose confuses Steven. But you know, it's fun. I love her giant fists. I've always have. Um, and what Steven finds is that the closest thing that he can to summoning his shield, I just spoiled it, is eating one of his favorite little treats, his cookie cats.
So to say.
So to say, because the mother centipedal, which is a big old gal with a gem that looks like a Pokeball, comes in, and while he tries to summon his shield in the same way by eating a lot of ice cream, it just doesn't work, and he has to throw a malfunctioning cookie cat fridge that's on the fritz at it, and it just electrocutes and dies. And the episode ends, and the implication is that obviously eating ice cream won't help you with your magical powers. It's something more inside you, etc., etc. And then Steven throws up, and the episode ends.
It's a very basic episode for the first episode of the show. It's basically a light retread of the pilot.
I would say so, yeah. I actually...
It has enough of its own identity to not be considered like a unnecessary pilot.
Yeah, and I actually found that I think that the gems were were actually a little better introduced this time around. Like in the pilot, they kind of were just there, but I actually kind of liked how they. How do I say this? I liked actually seeing the fact that. Oh, I'm clipping the mic a little. Sorry. Ooh.
It's fine.
I actually really like seeing how the gems were faced with an immediate problem. I liked seeing how they fought, and I feel that there was a greater emphasis on their personalities. There wasn't much fighting, but this was kind of largely an exposition episode to kind of get to know them. Like families and friends, you kind of already know, but it's good to get a good reminder on. I personally liked it. I personally liked it.
Okay. I mean, I don't have much to say other than it's a retread of the pilot, but again, it has enough of its own identity to not be like up the pilot episode. It does a good job of setting up the gems. You get your Lars with Sadie in this episode.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yes, she was. She was. I forgot.
Yeah, Sadie was a little more prominent here. I do think some of the jokes landed better this in the first episode than the pilot. Admittedly, I kind of like them. One thing that's immediately obvious compared to the pilot is the art style is already very different, which I thought was interesting. And
Yeah, like Steven Universe fans when the show first came out, they were really, really upset about the fact that the art style was so different. But, and I'm gonna say this, in order to contextualize what Steven Universe fandom was going through, a lot of people didn't really understand like the inner workings and politics of network animation and why the pilot looked so different. And just to retread the conversation, because I don't know if the pilot episode that we recorded is going to be released, basically the pilot is given a lot more time and money to be thrown at it to see if the network will invest in the future. And when the series is greenlit and moves into production, they are given a set budget that they need to... that they need to manage over the course of the season. So each individual episode, despite having more inferior animation to the pilot, will carry what the series considers its ethos going forward. The pilot is just meant to sell the show, which is why more money is thrown at it.
it's usually given more time in the oven, unlike the cookie cats.
Oh my god.
But yeah, and here's something interesting. I actually think I preferred the backgrounds of the regular show to the pilot episode, which is interesting. I like the more stylistic backgrounds, and there's this sort of shimmering, glimmering effect that's present, where like streaks of white and light tend to envelop the background. It kind of gives it a very shimmering feeling to Steven Universe, and I kind of feel that's part of its identity.
Yeah, I think that is part of its identity. That's a very good observation.
Yeah. Um. But yes, it is. It is mostly a recap, sort of a emotional recap of where the pilot left off, which I think there's nothing wrong with that. Absolutely. I don't think there's anything much else that we haven't already talked about. I already mentioned that it looks like a Pokeball. um,
It does a good job of setting up its characters. It does a good job of setting up the world. It actually does a better good job. It actually does a better good job. It does a better job of setting up the world than the pilot does. But as we established, the pilot is just meant to sell the series. It's not really meant for viewer consumption. We were probably not supposed to see it, but it got released anyways. And I mentioned this when that may have not been recorded or not, but I noticed that Pete Braungart, however you say his name, worked on the pilot, and that made a lot of sense to me because it did look stylistically influenced to an extent by Secret Mountain Fort Awesome, at least palette wise. It does look like his work.
I see. Well, that's very good to know. I think it's very interesting. I Secret Mountain Force Awesome. Oh yes, yes, I saw some of that, but never really, never really kept up with it for many years.
Nobody liked that
Nobody
show.
liked the show. Okay, okay, we don't have to make excuses for that one. Nobody likes that show.
It is what it is.
It is what it is. I respect that everyone went into the effort to trying maybe do something else next time. But yes, I agree with you. I think that this is a good introduction to a series. There's not really much else to say because it really is just exposition for the most part. It's just
It
explain
is.
what it is, and it's just trying to tell some jokes as it goes. Which I admit, I thought a decent number of them really did make me chuckle. I really liked some of them. I and this is going to be a bit of foreshadowing for as the podcast goes on, but I do really think it was funny how the first line in the entire series is no. Because I feel that that's going
Me.
to be Alex. Yeah, that's going to be Alex as time goes on. I don't know if it's going to be us per se because I think we're trying to be much more open minded about this. Oh yes, I should mention I Fallon Chance Panda only really got into Steven Universe at the end of season one, and we can explain why when we get there. But so it's interesting that we weren't introduced to Steven Universe through the pilot. We were introduced at a later point. So and we also dropped off, I'd say, kind of around the middle point, maybe middle three fourths. So we both,
Y'all were smart for doing that.
I mean, I don't personally think it was fully because of the quality. I also would blame how Cartoon Network handled the scheduling of this, and I think it's best to get into that conversation when we really start hitting episodes where it becomes apparent that this was genuinely a problem. But
Yeah, and we will eventually have to talk about Cartoon Network's. We will have to eventually talk about Cartoon Network's treatment of the show, the budget, and generally, uh, and we may even have to discuss the behavior of some of the cast members. But if we do discuss the behavior of the cast members, and I'm going to like say this right now, I will be very angry if any of you track down those cast members and just tell them, hey, Steven Universe, what's up with that? Do not go seeking out anybody who used to work on the show. Don't bother Rebecca Sugar. Don't bother Ian Jones-Courtly. Don't even bother Hillary Florido. And I'm specifically naming her because we all know what she did. Don't chase those people. This is a time in their lives that is now over. We will have to discuss their behaviors, but they will need to be contextualized with how Cartoon Network was treating the show and the budget, because Cartoon Network is one of the biggest factors in the show imploding like it did.
I would argue probably the biggest factor.
Probably the biggest factor, yes.
Yeah. But remember, everyone watching, you do have permission to come to my house and punch me directly in the face instead of tracking down.
Don't do that. Do not do that. I will be very angry.
Don't worry. Don't worry. I'm Fallon. I'm too tall. You can't reach me. I'm still gonna be angry, I'm still gonna be angry, Fallon, if someone attacks you because of this. No, that's fair. I'm
gonna be very, very angry. But the point is, don't attack the staff. The show's over.
The show's over.
If the show reboots itself still, do not attack the staff. Don't attack any workers. If you want to be the proletariat kings and support your working class people as you want to be, you're going to leave those people alone. You're going to leave the staff alone. You are going to hold their behavior up to scrutiny, but you're going to leave them alone.
Leave them alone. Instead, hate mail the CEO of Warner Brothers. And
actually, that's a good idea. That's a very good idea.
Do not say I told you to do that. I am not actually recommending you do that. But as we on the show believe, 99% of the time when a show implodes, it's probably the company's fault. Let's be brutally honest.
Yes.
But yeah, that's currently all our thoughts on Steven Universe Gem Glow, Season 1, Episode 1. We haven't yet gone to my topic yet, which is why I've been brought on this podcast, is because we are a collective, and that will make more sense as the podcast goes on. Hypothetical user who has never watched Steven Universe before.
By the way, if you haven't watched Steven Universe, don't watch this podcast. Don't listen to it.
No, don't listen
watch
to
Watch the series first and then come back.
Yeah, you should. You can watch it with us if you want. You can watch it episode by episode if you want to be fun, because this is, I mean, I talked about this in the pilot recording, but it is kind of fun that you are kind of the older, jaded, watched all of Steven Universe watcher, and I'm was there for a second, and then I fell out of keeping up with it, kind of.
Well,
so a lot of this is going to be still new to us as well. So,
to be entirely honest, the only reason I kept watching Steven Universe is because it was just this gigantic fire. Like it was a huge, smelly tire fire that you just couldn't look away from. It just turned into that after a while. And that will be context for the future episodes of this podcast.
Apparently I did look away and walked away and got a sandwich or something. And this is me finally coming back after getting the sandwich and going, "Hey guys, how's it going? Steven Universe. Hey, wow, this is cool. Anybody heard about this? Oh, wow.
God.
It's Steven's Universe and we're living in it. Anybody make that joke before? I bet no one has."
God.
Yes, that was Gem Glow. We got our stuff done, and once again, I'm Trans Panda. You can find me on Trans Panda 1 on Tumblr. I usually go by Panda, currently fronting the fictive Fallen. And
hi, my name is Alex. I go by Daft Online because I think it's funny. You don't want my social media.
And I respect that. Everybody have a wonderful day. And always remember, we haven't gone...
Don't attack the production staff!
You know, actually, that's a good catchphrase. Well, anyway, everyone, bye-bye.
See ya.
If I could begin to be half of what you think of me, I could do about anything. I could even learn how to love like you.